All right. Hey, good evening, everybody. It's great to see you all here. My name is Martina, and I am co-founder of Swift Industries. Tonight, we've got a really special first-time event. This is my first live hosting YouTube event, and I'm very excited. I'm a little nervous, so help me along. Hey, I would love to get a little bit of feedback from folks in the audience. Could I get in the chat room a thumbs up, whether I'm coming in loud and clear and audible? Just post a comment. If you can give me a little bit of feedback, that would be awesome. Anyone? I see that we've got 33 eyes on us over here. Is anyone able to hear us? I'm not seeing any comments coming in through the live chat. All right, let's see. I'm gonna do a little bit of check-in. Whoa, there they are. Thumbs up clear. Yeah, rad. Sweet. I'm so excited to see all of you tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us. It feels really special. Again, because this is my first time hosting, but then also because we have some incredible guests that I'm like truly honored to introduce to all of you. I'm sure that all of you have joined in for all kinds of different reasons. Hopefully it's because you're obsessed with bikes. You're really excited about what's going on in the gravel scene and community. Maybe there are also improvements that you want to see in this community as it's growing and developing and gaining more popularity and reach. I know there are some things that we want to be talking about this evening, so that should be pretty fun. A couple housekeeping things really quick. It will be so helpful to us on our end to be able to tell if there are any technical glitches. So just chime in the chat. And then we have some like pretty amazing guests in the chat room as well as in our broadcast studio this evening. Welcome, Sarah Swallow. Sarah is one of the folks who is kind of a force of nature who brought this team to fruition, just kind of put it out there, I believe at one of the WTF Bikexplorers summits on a community board, if I understand correctly, whether there was interest in a WTF gravel race team that was really focused on competitive riding and showing up as a cohesive squad to really support each other and train together, and also just bring some questions about culture and the vibe at these gravel events. So that's really the meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about this evening. So Sarah's in the audience, and I think, Sarah, maybe you can give a thumbs up if I got this right. Sarah is going to be helping to answer any questions about WTF Bikexplorers and about the Gravel Squad, anything that we just don't see coming in through the live broadcast as we're just happily gabbing away over here. So that is Sarah Swallow. And then I think that somewhere out there in the live chat as well is Jason Goodman, who is my co-founder here at Swift Industries. Jason, if you are there, maybe you can also give a thumbs up. And Jason is also just going to be helping along answering questions. Sometimes the chat room gets so lively and we don't want to miss anything. So it's a great place for you all to be chiming in with any questions you have for our guests this evening, and we'll do our best to follow along. Also, like, drop, where you're hollering from. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I see Pathless Pedaled out there. Hi, Pathless Pedaled. He doesn't know it, but Russ is actually my YouTube mentor. So that's pretty exciting that you're here, Russ. Thanks for tuning in. And Laura, hopefully you're there as well. All right. Well, my friends, without further ado, it is my pleasure to bring in the WTF Gravel Squad. But before I introduce you to everybody, I would love, my dog is going crazy. He's also very excited this evening. I just wanted to give you all a little bit of context. So the things that are really special to me about what's going on with this team is kind of the momentum and everything that's happening right now with the WTF Bikexplorers in general. So in the description of our live chat this evening, you can go in and check out the guiding principles that kind of like collect this team and the inspiration for the team. But I do feel like it's awesome just to start off with that introduction. So I'm just going to read you all what these folks are all about. So this is taken from their website, and I hope that it inspires you as much as it inspires me. So the WTF Bikexplorers Gravel Squad is a community of cyclists who identifies as non-binary, transgender, women, or femme with the following mission: to support, celebrate, and connect a community of strong non-binary, transgender, femme, and women cyclists who challenge themselves on gravel race events. Dope. To increase representation and advocate for more gender and racial inclusivity and equality at gravel race events. To be stewards of the WTF Bikexplorers Guiding Principles. There's actually a live link on the site to learn more about that, so I encourage you to check it out. And to inspire more non-binary, transgender, femme, and women cyclists to hold space at gravel events. So I'm super excited to dive into all of this evening. Hey, without further ado, let's bring in the team, shall we? All right, let's see. We've got a couple guests we're going to have to rotate through. Hi, everybody. How's it going? All right.
Hello.
How's everyone doing?
Really good.
Doing great.
Really hard to
Doing well?
ignore it. Yeah, welcome all. All right.
Good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see all your faces. So first and foremost, everybody, I think we can just dive in with intros. So let me just check really quick. Let's see. I'm going to go first, actually. I'm going to pick a little bit on Georgia because Georgia is our guest over here at Swift Industries right now. So give a wave, Georgia, so that folks can see who you are. Right now, if you're following along on Swift Industries social media, you will see the incredible work of Georgia over here. Georgia's tuning in from where exactly
Sydney.
are you today?
I'm in Sydney. Yeah.
What time of day is it?
It is just gone past 11 o'clock in the morning.
Awesome. Dang. Cool. Good morning. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Georgia, I'm curious, do you recall where we met for the first time?
Yes, I remember you waving over to me when we were at the WTF summit in Oregon, and I waved back, but I was quite shy, so I just looked away.
And that was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. It didn't deter us.
Yeah.
Cool, and then got to spend some time again together at the gravel camp that was hosted in Arizona this winter.
Yeah, that was a really amazing time. And I think that for me personally, I feel like that's the first time we actually met because I actually got to know you and we had some proper conversations. And I really think that that was a pretty amazing time for everybody, actually.
Yeah, well, it was great. Cool. You want to take the torch and introduce your teammates?
Yeah, I would love to introduce Delaney. This way.
You got it.
Baby face, but legs of steel. And you're in Portland at the moment, Delaney?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, nice. You've just arrived there, yeah?
Yeah, maybe about a week ago. Kind of traveled through all the crazy nonsense, but happy to be here.
Nice.
Yeah. All right, I can go next. Effie, which is not in the chat room right now. Martina, can you assist?
There we are. Yeah, Effie. What's up?
All right. Effie. Effie's pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am not a Cali girl, but if I was a Cali girl, I think I would be residing in the same city as Effie, which is Berkeley, California. And one of our first, or I feel like one of our defining, like solidifying friendship moments was at the end of gravel camp when we were riding home back to the casita together, and it was dark. And it was like this 5-minute bike ride, and out of all things to talk about, me and Effie go into like minute by minute detail of our daily routines at home. And I was like, if I can have like this great joy having like the most boring conversation with someone in the dark, we're gonna be lifelong friends. So
I appreciate knowing that you have a fried egg for breakfast every morning.
so
I hope that never changes. Well, I'm excited to introduce Hannah. Okay, this is hard. Hannah's pronouns are she, her, hers, and she is currently residing in Salt Lake City, Utah. And despite the saltiness of the lake, she is not the least bit salty, I can say. And one of my favorite lesser known facts about Hannah is that she had a short but storied career as a professional ukulele player using the Marcel the Shell voice. Yeah. What I got?
No, it's true. I'm sorry for what I subjected my Instagram followers to. The first week of quarantine was a time. So, that's what we got. I'm delighted to introduce, Natalia, who lives in San Jose, California. Natalia's pronouns are she, her, hers. And Nat and I met at gravel camp down in Arizona in February. And Natalia is someone who's just incredibly emotionally intuitive. And that's something that like struck me from the first day of like riding together these like bananas routes that Sarah Swallow had planned for us. And like Nat would come up at an intersection and we'd be riding together. And she was just like stoked and like, let's keep going. And just, yeah, it was a great week of riding with Nat. So over to you.
All right. Thank you for that lovely introduction. I have the pleasure of introducing, there you go. So Carl. It is really hard. And their pronouns are they, them, and they are currently in Portland as well. So lucky. Portland is a lucky city to have two of our teammates. And one thing I learned about Carl, well, there's a couple things. But one is they get a lot of flats. They consider themselves the queen of flats, and there's a wonderful kind of documentation of all the incredible nails and punctures and sealant leaking all over the place. It's wonderful. And then another thing I learned about Carl is that they have the best taste in prizes during gravel camp. We had a very impromptu last-minute race on the last day for some of us, and I just, they had me pass out JoJo's on the race course, which is fantastic, and I think. Also, a half-smoked joint was part of the prize, too, which I definitely respect. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Nat, for that introduction. I am introducing Emily right over here. Emily's pronouns are she, her, hers, and she lives in Hayden, Colorado. I met Emily during Gravel Camp as well, and she is a geologist by day and an astrologist by night, and she is a true gem. And it's very funny that Natalia brought up this half-smoked joint, because that prize was actually donated to me by Emily. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure. Hi, I'm Emily. I'm going to talk a little bit about, for people who maybe haven't gone to a gravel race before or any kind of like official gravel event, what that looks like. But first, I want to give a quick shout out to my teammate Hannah, who I don't know if anyone's doing the Ride with GPS social distancing cycling challenge, but Hannah has ridden 1,200 plus miles since that started in the middle of March. So we're all going to be chasing her all summer long. So basically, I started going to gravel events like 5 years ago, and going to like really small local things that were maybe like 10 to 30 people, and your entry fee was like $10 if there was a fee. And that's sort of the range of things where you can have a local small event where it's just you show up, your number is written on a paper plate and zip tied to your bike, and you just go ride a course. And you can also end up spending several $100s and lining up on the starting line with 2,000 other people, racing against people who might have been professional road riders, and now they are switching to gravel because it's more chill. And the thing that I think is really cool about it is that both of those types of events have a similar feeling where they're pretty inclusive already. And that's why I'm really excited to be part of this team, because we're at a moment, I think, in gravel racing where it's starting to look at getting more regulated. It's starting to look at getting more serious. And we have the opportunity to be part of that conversation and to kind of define what that next level looks like for the sport.
Yeah, that's great. So I feel like that gives a lot of context right now for why this team feels so relevant and why the time is so exciting. So I don't know, I just want to dive really into kind of the big questions. Not having showed up for very many of these events myself, especially not as a competitive rider. I am just really curious what you all think, kind of like the vibe and culture, what it feels like to be a part of these events, both the highs and the lows, what your experiences have been showing up at events. And maybe you can speak to, just so folks know, like where to plug in and what kinds of events there are, even speak to which events you're plugging into. And definitely, like, we want to hear what is awesome about the events, and then also kind of some of the stuff that doesn't feel as awesome as a WTF participant, and maybe even some thoughts about how we can change that. So if there's anyone who wants to dive in there, let's do it.
Sure, I'll start us off. Again, my name's Hannah. So I've done like everything from like shorter kind of one-day gravel events. I've done a few of those, to like kind of multi-day, more bike packing events. And I think something that I really love is simply that like competitive nature of like riding can be a really solitary, like beautifully solitary experience as we train all year. And then you come together on these like kind of few weekends in the spring and summer, and you like kind of get to see everybody else who's been doing this same thing all around the country or all around the world. And I think that's such a cool experience of just being like, oh, like we all do this thing, and you existed in, in your state, and I've been over here. And to get to like really challenge yourself against other folks. I think some events do a really great job of making like WTF fields really feel accessible and feel welcoming. And then there are events where you line up and you're one of 5 WTF racers. And there's kind of this like weird, like, oh, hey, I'm going to be your friend because you're the only other one here. And there are those moments of like, how do we create more belonging, or how do we create like a larger WTF field? So when you show up, it's like, oh, we have a stand in this. It's not, we're not making the podium simply because we're one of 3 WTF racers who are here. We're making the podium because we worked really hard to get there. And I think there's, a whole gamut of events based on like where you are geographically, or just like what distance you're racing to.
Yeah, awesome. Can I ask you a question about something you said earlier? You mentioned that some of the events that you show up at have felt like really accessible and inviting. How would you describe that distinction? Do you feel like it was intentional on the part of the race organizers? What kind of drives that?
Yeah, I think something that our team talked about a lot as we were like kind of getting ready to chat today was just that like Ruta del Jefe, which Sarah Swallow organizes. Like we're just gonna plug that race all day because that was one where like not only was there really strong like FTW racer representation, but also it was like an environment where like immediately like you didn't feel like you were the exception to the crowd of folks who were there. And there were people on like all different kinds of bikes from all different riding backgrounds. It wasn't just this kind of like road racer turned gravel racer atmosphere, which I think a lot of other larger events can kind of feel like. And that feels exclusionary only in the equipment, kind of the like you show up and there's like a very clear like super racing carbon frames, which is cool. And they go fast. But also are like a lot of dollars. So to show up to a race where like there are people on all different kinds of bikes and like everybody's just there to like learn and engage with where you are was really, really special.
Yeah, the level of support, again, not having been involved in many of these events, it was incredible just to feel how encouraging everybody was. Like everybody was like doing their friggin' darndest individually, and also like truly showing up to applaud each other because it was hard work. And that felt amazing. Like it felt so good. So yeah, it was a great example. Do any of you have other stories to share?
I've done exactly 2 gravel races, and I think kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum. On a whim, I signed up for Grinduro, California last year, literally like 2 weeks before the race day. And so I did that, and it was amazing. It was my first race, and it's a big event. It's sponsored, like there are all sorts of things that go into it, and it was a really cool experience. But then doing Ruta del Jefe this year was also like, it felt like what I would like to see more in races, which is a very intentional space. It's a lot of what you and Hannah both mentioned already. Just going to continue to plug Ruta because it was just such an amazing event. But it was a really conscientious event. And I think there is absolutely space, and like it's really important to have fun and like that competitive atmosphere, but at the same time to be aware of where you are and the impact that we all have on the land and the history of the land and everything else.
I think too, something that's kind of interesting about the gravel scene right now is that there's definitely that desire to be better, whether it's like Steamboat Gravel has their parity thing, which is to include more women. And I think something that we can do as the WTF Gravel team is really push that conversation, because I think a lot of times people don't understand that parity needs a larger umbrella and it needs to include more people. And so we can kind of get our foot in the door and then start that conversation.
Yeah, to that end, Emily, I saw that Grindero, California today posted that they want to double the number of women participating in their event. And I didn't realize, but last year it was 15% women, and this year their goal is 30% women. And I think like that's a great goal, but it's also, to your point, like a little bit behind the ball. Like we have so much room to include, like it's not even considering the trans or femme racers, and that needs to be part of it.
Word. Hear, hear. Any thoughts from folks? We've got a couple folks hanging out actually in the standby, just to cram everybody into our like little room here. Let's see. I'm going to say adios really quickly to Hannah. We'll have you back in a sec. Hey.
Hi.
And no pressure to contribute at this point. Just wanted to make sure that we get everybody in here. Jambi and Delaney are back on with us. Any thoughts for like if we could give some sage words or encouragement or ideas for the folks organizing Grindero, where could we kind of start directing people's attention and awareness to make sure that we do see more diversity in the language and representation of folks coming? And more specifically, it takes a lot of work for us to show up, especially if we're not being specifically asked to. What does it look for these organizers to shift language and culture to make it really a clear signal that FTW communities are invited in and like really wanted? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I think it's really important for race organizers when it's important to be intentional around the language they use around categories, especially. As like a non-binary rider, I often show up to races and like don't really feel like I fit in either category. Even in a city like Portland, where racers or organizers are doing like maybe more than they are in other places to think about those things. But I often find that the description will say that the category is for women, trans, femme, or non-binary riders, but everyone will call it the women's category. So it feels like a symbolic gesture and not something super welcoming for folks like me at times. Yeah, and then I also think it's really important to do things to make it more accessible for folks that they're trying to draw in, and that can be done by like adopting like free scales for like junior racers or for beginner WTF racers, or like pay what you can models.
Yeah, I was really inspired by a article in the Cyclista zine issue, that number 2 that just came out, about this issue. It wasn't related to gravel events, but it was related to road racing. And I'm shooting myself for not remembering the author's name, but if someone wants to shout it out in the comments, that'd be awesome. But yeah, I think for people, especially people of color, the barriers start like way before even the race is organized. So, I often, I've been thinking a lot about how organizers can partner with local bike shops, with any company that makes some of the equipment that maybe you don't need, but makes gravel racing more possible, or at least doing the length of the routes possible, including, water bottles, bags, computers, all these things that, are a huge upfront cost. And so, I think a lot about like, how can we create an equitable economy for people who want to join and who want to ride. So what would it look like if race organizers offered like minimal fee sewing patterns for bags, or what if they partnered with a bag company to offer that kind of option? Bag company. But what would it look like if there was a way for people to be able to participate, but also support the companies and the small businesses that make so much, or are such a huge part of the cycling industry?
Yeah, that's awesome, Nat. Other thoughts? Cool. I'm going to check really quick to see what's going on in the live chat. See if there are any questions or comments around exactly what we're talking about. It is so cool to see folks chiming in out there. Hi, Devin. It's great to see you. And also, I wanted to do a shout out here. I saw someone who I admire a lot out here. I see Kat Sweet in the audience. And if y'all don't know Kat, I had the incredible opportunity of doing a basic skill building class with Kat through Sweet Lines. Amazing. So cool. So Kat, welcome in. I know when our email exchange earlier today, you were talking about exactly these conversations, but in the mountain bike community more specifically. So it's so rad to see you in the audience here. Thanks for kind of tuning in today. Cool. Excellent. Yeah. And then there's a friend of Kat's in there too. This is also Jennifer over here from Sisu Magazine and Coalition Snow. So we've got some really incredible folks chiming in today. Sweet. Awesome. So I think that we've done kind of a little bit to scratch the surface about what is happening in gravel race culture, some things that we need to start digging into and have conversations, ongoing conversations, deeper conversations to kind of transform the cultures. And that's exciting. We've got kind of like, we're endurance athletes. We know how to play the long game and have these long conversations and dig in, right? It's really exciting. And thank you all for chiming in with such incredible stuff. I do also want to hear, we've been talking about kind of these immediate changes. What could a gravel event look like in 5 years? Like if we really did some of the work that we're doing now, and if we affected some change, what is kind of this dream vision of what these events will actually feel like and look like for those of us showing up?
I think what one of the most important things for us as a team is to just see more of us out there, and really it's not so much about transforming the gravel scene, because in many ways it's still very new. It's like a little thing that still has growing to do, but definitely being there, being a resource for participants as well as organizers, and how to make these events even more fun than they already are. Yeah.
Cool. I want to hear now a little bit more about the skinny, what it feels like to be on this team all together. So my understanding, well, because I was there and I witnessed it, is that this team really came together and was formed out of a week-long gravel camp out in Arizona. It was the WTF Gravel Camp out in the Appleton Whittle Research Ranch. where we had the incredible opportunity to ride with about 25 people for 4 days and connect with each other and really have kind of these facilitated conversations, group conversations around exactly the topics that we've been talking about today, but then also just to be able to be like super bike geeks all together for a week and push ourselves super hard. Shout out to Sarah once again for those good, challenging routes that were put together on the daily. But it was a really incredible experience. One of the things that I loved about Gravel Camp was that folks showed up to try out for the team. And also folks showed up who really, like myself, did not want to show up necessarily to try out for a competitive team, but really did want to come into a space that was FTW focused and was like really engaged with skills building and these deeper, more meaningful, intentional conversations. And I thought that the way that Gravel was set up was really incredible because from my experience, at least, the way that the days were structured really allowed us all to connect with each other and to push ourselves pretty individually. I felt pretty pushed. But I'm so curious what the experience of Gravel Camp was for those of you who were trying out, and kind of what it means to each of you individually to be a part of a team. So you all could ride at these events individually. That's how a lot of folks show up for these events. Or you could ride for any number of other teams. Why the WTF Gravel Team?
I can start that one off. I think a lot of my reason is just going back to Gravel Camp. I didn't have much gravel experience at all. I literally booked my flight to Arizona and then was like, wow, I need to get some gravel tires. I had not ridden gravel at all. Like I had mountain biked and road biked, but I kind of just had the confidence of maybe I'll figure it out. And I went, I think, on 2 gravel rides before getting to Arizona. And just being in Arizona, as soon as I walked into the cafeteria, everybody was like willing to chat, willing to talk. And I felt that just carry throughout the entire week. It felt like a summer camp with like your best friends that you didn't know from before, you know? And so I think the most important thing about this gravel team is the community that it creates, like within an instant. Like within the night, I felt like I knew everybody's names, mostly because we were forced to, but we already had inside jokes. We already were excited and we hadn't even ridden yet. And I think the gravel community is so special because it's so much more than just biking. It's about, we're trying to make it about equality and diversity and all these other aspects. And I think that is why it's so important to have this WTF Gravel Camp and team so that we can show ourselves out there and show other people that they can come out with us too.
Yeah. Well, I traveled quite a long way to go to that gravel camp. And so I had like a lot riding on, having a good time as well. And but it really was just, I think like we did have a bit of a group discussion over dinner one time of like, tell us what's going on in your head. And everyone sort of said the same thing where they hadn't really ridden with so many WTF or like-minded people before, and how different it was to what they've experienced in the past. And it really is like, I don't know, how you can sort of like offer a related experience. It really was something that stood out on its own for me. It was really cool. And for me, I think that being on this team is important because it's like because we have this secondary agenda, there's so much motivation that flows around us. Like we're constantly talking to each other, we're in we're on the text line, we're in the Instagram group chats, we're having weekly sessions on Google Hangouts, and we just sort of just can't stop talking to each other. So it's a great sort of secondary like place to be, as well as on a team. It's, you know, having a nice group of friends. So, and I don't know like what other teams are like. This is my first one, but I wonder how they remain like motivated. Do they sort of like spur each other on in the same way that we do? I don't know. Anyone have any insight on that? No.
No idea.
No.
One of the things that was so amazing to me, I think when I was riding, I had a day where I was riding with, let's see, I think, who was I? We're missing somebody. Hannah. Hold on. I'm getting Hannah back in here. How do I do it? There we are. So Hannah, Effie, Emily, and I mean, there was like a whole squad, and we were, but I'm remembering you three because I was really suffering. And there's nothing like suffering to make me feel bonded to people. And the power from, again, I've never been in a team before. I have ridden fairly fast in groups, but not this like pushed me in a very different way. I was so conscious the entire time on these rides of my pace, of managing my nutrition, of kind of my mood and my energy, and taking very different awareness to hold those, like basically not letting myself fall apart in front of you all. But that also is like the collective verve of being in a supportive group, right? So there's this understanding that there's tenderness there, but then also there is like a real wish to push ourselves individually because of how inspired we are by the collective strength. And that is not something that should be undermined about being in a team. I'm curious how each of you might experience that.
Well, I had a similar experience riding with Hannah at Gravel Camp, where I was trying desperately to keep up with Sarah, and I was failing because I needed some food. And Hannah rode up next to me and was like, "I'm going to have a snack. Like, do you want to have a snack?" And we just kind of like rode with each other and ate some like food, and then, you know, like picked up the pace and caught up to the group. And it was just a really nice moment of, I'm sure she saw me bonking before I knew I was bonking and was like, "I'm going to help my pal out." So I think that's like that's why you're on a team with someone, you know, because they can see when you need that like help out.
Any experiences about what it feels like on a team when you're riding all alone?
I can definitely speak to that, because my pace was between the, you know, what did we call it? The not so chill group of the camp and the party crew. So I was in between. I wasn't quite one or the other. And so it was kind of funny. You know, I was trying out for the team, but I was kind of getting dropped a little. But, you know, I'd ride alone for a few minutes, and then around the corner, the rest of the group would be there, and they'd be waiting. And I'm just like, wow, I'm not that far off. So even during moments when I was riding by myself, I knew that the not so chill group would be, you know, only a few minutes away up the road, and that they'd be waiting.
Yeah. I have a similar experience from gravel camp. Most days I kept up with the not so chill group. But there was one day where I was really struggling, and it turned out to be because my brakes were rubbing. And I got dropped by the not so chill group and just kind of like hung by myself for a while and ate a snack while riding. I thought that might help. And then Sarah and a mechanic that lives in Virginia both turned around to like see where I was and check up on me. And they were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm just going to join the medium group today." And then I think the mechanic could like hear that my brake was rubbing, and they were like, "Do you need help with anything?" And like at that point I knew that my brake was rubbing, and I was like, "No, it's fine, really. Like I'll just start my own pace group today." And she was like, I can fix it for you." And I was like, "Okay, sure." So it was just like really great to have that support, and just to like know that that was going to be there for you even when you couldn't keep up for a while. Yeah, and it's nice even now, like riding on my own, training, and just like knowing that even though I'm totally alone, I still have the support from my teammates to ask questions about like training or like how to feed yourself while riding, and all of that. Yeah, it's been really helpful.
This is an amazing segue. How are you all training in this COVID time? What does that look like for each of you? I imagine we're all kind of logging in from different places. I imagine that shelter in place regulations are pretty different from place to place. Are you riding inside, outside? How's it going?
I'm riding outside. Oh, Effie, take it away.
Oh, all right. I am lucky enough to still be able to ride outside. I mean, winter is still. Am I dying? Oh God. The Bay Area winter is like so mild that it's and bikes, you're still allowed to ride outside around here, so that's been great. And it's just been kind of like a matter of whether or not I can motivate myself to go outside, and a lot of times it's me convincing myself that like, yes, I will feel better after 10 minutes of riding my bike, and then I'll want to be on my bike for hours. And I would say 99.9% of the time that's true, and the days that it's not, then it's just a shorter day.
Yeah, I'm curious, are there, like, do you have your sights on a specific, like, how do you stay, are you thinking about like trying to make mileage goals? Are you trying to pay attention to speed goals? Do you have a specific event that is slated for the fall that's keeping you motivated? I know that feels a long way away, but Effie, any thoughts on that stuff?
So as a disclaimer, I really like going up hills. So
hats off to you.
Yeah. So usually like I judge my rides based on elevation gain. And so I track them and ride with GPS, and I can see like what I've done over what mileage. And so that's sort of my gauge for how hard a ride, quote unquote, is. It definitely does not always correlate to how hard it feels. Like some days it feels easy, and other days it feels really, really, really hard. And that's mostly it. And then trying for the endurance stuff is helpful. I did my second century ever, the first one being Ruta, a couple of weeks ago. And that was like cool because it like at no point throughout the day did I just feel like garbage, which was great. But trying to keep longer days on the horizon, but not focusing so much on that.
Yeah. How about you, Carly? Are you riding these days?
Yeah, I am riding these days. You can still ride in Portland. I have like a pretty structured plan, and just with how unstructured life is right now, I don't always follow that. But I have been doing like 1 day of long miles each week. And last week I did my second century as well. I was all by myself. It was long and lonely, and it was totally paved, which is not my favorite, but it felt really good. The first time I ever did a century was this January, and I was so incredibly sore for like 2 days afterwards. So it was really nice to see that like the things I've been doing every day, like shorter in mileage and intensity have really been helping me to do the long endurance things. Yeah.
Emily, what's it looking like for you?
I live on the border of a part of the country that does not believe in restrictions of any kind. So it's pretty wild riding your bike from one county to another in Northwest Colorado these days. So I've kind of been taking advantage. I've been in this place where I've been living here for 7 years, and I've been getting a lot better as a rider throughout that time. And because of my job, I drive around a lot on back roads. So I've sort of had all of these like half-formed route ideas in my head, and kind of been like, oh, one day I'll be good enough and strong enough and like have the right gear to be able to do these. And like that day is now. And so it's been really cool to realize that all of these long-term projects I can kind of just start checking off. So I've sort of thrown my training plan out the window. Our first race isn't until August now. And I'm just like checking off dream routes in my backyard.
What is the first race?
It'll be SBT Gravel in August.
Tell us about it. What's happening there?
So it's a 140-mile race. I'm really excited about it because it's in my backyard. I'm like 20 miles outside of Steamboat. And it's got about 9,000 feet of climbing. And we're all going to race that and then hang out up here for a week and do a little bike packing trip. And then we will head to Nebraska to do Gravel Worlds the next weekend.
Damn, really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I just put Jambi Jambo up on the screen because I'm curious whether you're going to make it all the way back for those events.
That depends on the decision of people that are a bit higher up than me, unfortunately.
Like government?
Just like one
Like
or two
government.
steps up.
I'll talk to them about it, but I'm not sure if they're going to be keen. We've had closed borders for a long time, like maybe beginning of March or something like that. And I do keep on tabs on articles of when it likely will be lifted. And I don't think that I suspect that I'm actually not going to be able to travel this year. So it might be, I'm sort of like telling myself that so the grieving process is a little easier, you know. So if it happens, I absolutely will be there. I've been like hustling pretty hard to make sure that I've got the right amount of money, considering that, you know, work is non-existent at the moment for me with touring. And yeah, so I'm putting all the places of this, like the puzzle in place, but I'm not actually sure. Yeah. And training for me, well, actually, because I've done a lot of cycling and I normally cycle every day, either like working as a courier is really good fitness. And then when I decided that I wanted to do the Ruta del Jefe, I sort of put in place that I would do some training, which is kind of like the first training I've ever done in my life, because normally I just sort of do incidental cycling training. And and then I was like totally surprised at how my body adapted and how quickly it sort of got in form with the idea that I would go do some racing. And then for me, it's like I have no idea about training. I really am so bad with sticking to regimes or like schedules. So I just like trick myself to get out there during the day. Like I'll make a ridiculous plan. I have to sort of follow through because I told the person on the other end that I'd be there. So I'd be like, okay, shit, like I got to go for that ride and I'll have to do it really quickly because I'm like told them that I'll be there by 5. So like I just trick myself into riding fast and riding often. And so I'm still trying to ride every day. It's a bit pointless at the moment because I'm not working. Like this, I can't leave the city. So city riding can be a bit mundane. Yeah. Was there even a question? Did I just rattle on?
You did great. That was awesome. One of the things that I've been thinking about a lot during this pandemic is how remote travel and these long distance gravel events have given me tools for dealing with uncertainty. Anybody have any similar experiences that you can speak to, or any skills or things that you've learned from this kind of riding that have helped you with this like whole new circumstance and situation that we found ourselves in?
Nothing lasts forever.
Word.
I feel like gravel riding is the best way to prepare for life, because you never, like, at least for me, I don't know if I'm doing it wrong, but every gravel ride I go on, it never like works out the way it's planned. Like I either get a flat, or I don't have enough food, or a dog chases me or something. And I feel like your ability that you gain to adapt to like anything that's thrown at you through gravel riding, like goes across the rest of life. And so, yeah, I think gravel riding is just a great way to like finally be comfortable in the discomfort, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think also what gravel teaches you is that patience really is key. And, if there's something really tough coming up, like really just going at your own pace and doing what you think will be best for you, rather than focusing on any kind of result or any exterior goal that you may have.
There's a real art to that. It does not come easy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like I could gab at you all day long, and I hope to have that opportunity. We have had 60 people holding on for an entire hour, which is so cool. Thanks everybody for just staying on board with us. I do want to give our audience the opportunity to ask you all questions, things that we have missed. Bring it. We're like psyched to talk about answering any questions about how we got into this kind of riding, any suggestions on gear and kind of the skills also, the hard skills and the soft skills to take on this kind of riding. What's on your mind? Izzy says the hour has flown by.
There was a question. Yeah. There was a question earlier in the chat that I saw that asked, like, what are the barriers that exist for WTF riders? I don't know if we wanted to kind of go into that.
That'd be amazing. I'm going to do my best to dig that one up and post it up onto the leaderboard up here. In the interim, anyone want to jump in?
Yeah. Sure. Or Nat, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say, I think as someone who grew up in a like urban inner city area, I think having access to gravel roads is a huge barrier for some WTF riders. I personally, I mean, now I live in a place that does, but I think a lot about, I grew up in Southern California in San Bernardino, and I think a lot about how not having, the resources or access to free space can definitely be a barrier for being able to ride in these terrains.
Well, I like that question from Alex.
That's
How does
fun.
the body transition from urban riding to gravel? What's the best way to find community? It's a good question. I don't know. I think that like getting used to, so like gravel is just a lot slower than road. And I think changing the pace and your expectations and how far you're going to get is probably the biggest one. You can really travel very far when you're on a road, but you just are slowed down by so many different aspects, like river crossings or like cow grates and things like that, and just the actual gravel, riding on the gravel slows you down a lot. So I think changing your idea of speed and distance would probably be my biggest thing.
I think too, like your body like shakes so much more when you're riding gravel. And so I didn't really have a core routine, even though I was riding long distance on gravel roads for a long time. And that's something I wish I had started doing earlier, because that helps with the shaking.
In terms of community, the best way that I have found is I will be like passing some FTW person. And I'll be like, oh, I ride alone. They ride alone. They probably want to be friends with me because I want to be friends with them, and find them at some rest stop or something like that and just be like, hey, let's ride together. But I'm also an extrovert, so that probably won't work for a lot of people.
We have Laura Thomas here, who maybe we can like all celebrate with them. I'm stoked to be here. Tomorrow is new bike day, and I'm getting my first gravel bike. I won't be able to sleep tonight because I'm so excited. That's pretty dope. And then we've got another great one. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Daron. I don't have a well-formed question, but I'm just trying to get a sense of some of the trans MTF issues I might want to be conscious of as I prepare to do some gravel events. Any thoughts there?
I think this would be a great question for Izzy, who is in our comments section. We don't have a trans person on the team, so yeah.
Izzy, you out here? You want to chime in? All right.
Yeah, I think they already have been talking in the chat, actually.
Great. Excellent. Cool. There, Izzy says, find somebody to go with you. We love buddying up, right? The camaraderie is excellent. So that's one way. And to find somebody to go with you, maybe there's a little plug here. If you all follow the link in the description below, you'll head towards the WTF Bikexplorers site in general. And there are links out there for ways to connect with more FTW riders in this community. And there are folks hosting rides, overnights, gravel rides. That might be, post-COVID life, might be on kind of chill simmer for the moment. But also, I think that there are there's a Slack group that folks can jump into to connect with other people and find folks in your area as well. So that has been a great resource for people. So I have a really, really good one here. Lindsay Gilbert says, any suggestions on a reasonable first gravel bike?
Someone also asked what brand of bike we all ride, so maybe we should tell everyone that we're going to have new bike day soon. We're all getting Specialized Diverges one of these days in the very near future.
Yeah, and Specialized is one of the team's sponsors, correct?
Yep.
Cool. That's awesome. Congratulations.
I think also, Lindsay, when thinking about a bike, you just want to really think about tire clearance, making sure you can fit some big ones on there. Doesn't really matter what else. At least that's what I found helpful.
Yeah, totally. My first gravel bike was a Surly Straggler, and I feel like those are like somewhat affordable when thinking of gravel bikes. And also like going to used shops and finding like old vintage mountain bikes are great because they're pretty cheap, and vintage mountain bikes like don't have shocks or anything, so it's like pretty much just a gravel bike. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I love that.
You can also change some of the components on a cheaper bike if you find something. Like, I always think that a nice wide bar helps me with comfort and longevity on the bike. It just helps me hold on a little bit more, and it's a bit more control as well. If you're not used to gravel, then a wider drop bar is a good option. So you can, if you find a secondhand bike and it's got all the things that you like, and you can just sort of change a couple of things to make it a little bit more comfortable. And eventually over time you'll work on it and then you'll fall in love with it like everybody does with their bikes. But comfort, definitely aim for comfort. Changing your saddle, handlebars, pedals even. And I like, if you're going to go flats, I'd be like nice wide flats so you can continue to push. If your pedal is too small, it's sort of like, I know, it's like Princess of the Sea for me.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of this is also maybe addressing Mandy's question. I don't want to be swept up in product fads, and I have a tight budget. Advice on how to weed through the info and the marketing. Any thoughts on that? I'd be so curious where each of you, what kind of a bike you each started with that you felt like was a really great, reliable entry to riding gravel. And then maybe also speak to some of the things that you kind of outgrew as maybe you sought a faster bike or figured out that the geometry wasn't quite right for you. Any experiences with that stuff?
Yeah, I think so as far as like a first bike, like I still ride my beloved steel bike. That
it's a trader, right?
It's so good. It's a trader slot.
Yeah.
RIP. Oh, just like the brand doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. I was
but that, like, people, I've had that bike for 5 years, and folks like still come up to me and are like, "What's that bike?" Because it doesn't look like what people think a gravel bike looks like now, as like gravel bikes have evolved. Speaking to like the marketing and fads and hypes, there's like, people now, there's like a specific bike that's marketed towards like only being ridden on gravel races of this distance and like and you're like, whatever. And it's really just, to George's point of, it's like the bike that's comfortable for you. And then as far as like gear and stuff, I've really loved being able to like check out friends' equipment. So like friends who had different like handlebar rolls or different top tube bags or different things that like I could borrow for even just a ride, to say like, oh, does this work with, does this stem bag fit on my bike and allow me still to like stand up and pedal? So to be able to like try those things out from a friend before like committing to buying one. And like, there are a lot of deep dives on the internet, as we all know, in very many ways. But bikepacking.com has some really great roundups of like stem bags, of top tube bags, and like a ton of like long-term use reviews versus just kind of like flash in the pan, like first impressions. So there's some really good like extended info.
I'm still on my first quote unquote gravel rig. It's an all-city Macho Man, so not the widest tire clearance. I think I'm past what they recommend running 40s on there, but it's worked really well for me. It was I built it up with a friend to be a sort of like everything commuter, like slightly more fun to ride on slightly longer rides bike. And then was like, oh yeah, this thing is comfortable off-road as well. I'm with Hannah on the hashtag steel is real, faux real. I think steel bikes are great. And they're also like, I feel less bad about wrecking on them because I'm not that good at it. So I fall over a decent amount and the steel bike can handle it. So that's great.
Speaking of wrecking and breaking stuff, I'm super curious. How have you all, like, what are some of the most basic mechanical skills that y'all have tried to work on or build your skills on in order to gain confidence with this kind of riding?
I have been like, instead of taking my bike to the shop, I sort of do work on things myself as much as possible. And if I have a question, I don't attempt to do it myself. I'll go and take it to my bike mechanic who is just downstairs. And he,
That's handy.
yeah, he will just walk me through it. So really, like, talking to the people that know, and I think don't even go basic. Just like just try to get to know your bike as much as possible. Like, it's endless on how much you can know. Like, it's really like you can deep dive into it, but I think the more you know, the better. And there's no reason to stop at a certain point just because you know how to change your tire real quick. Like, just keep going and learn as much as possible. And if you don't know anything, that's great. It's the first place to start, is to just change your tires, learn how your bike reacts to like appropriate amount of lube, what happens if your derailleur breaks, like how you can take it off and how you can repair it. Like, just keep diving in. I think the more you know, the better.
Yeah, I think a good place to start is like tubeless tires. That was something that was new to me when I finally invested in a gravel bike. So that was fun to learn. And then at the first Bike Explorers Summit, they taught us how to check our brake pads and replace them. And that's something that's super simple to do yourself. And when I learned how to do that, it made me feel like really confident and more ready to explore like other mechanic things. So I think those are two skills that you can definitely master with the internet while you're in quarantine.
I think besides, oh, sorry.
Yeah, do it, Delaney.
I think besides learning like how to change a tube and all that, a lot of my learning has been like just going out and riding. And when something breaks, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to find a way to get back home, but then I'll figure it out myself. And so it's always like kind of in the moment of like, okay, well, I'm going to need to know how to do this next time I go on a ride. So just get out on your bike and yeah, have no worries, but be ready for anything.
Yeah.
Any rad hacks?
Oh, duct tape? I don't know.
Go ahead, Hannah.
Just yesterday, feeling very inspired because I tried to use a Dynaplug during Ruta del Jefe and it didn't work because it was like a sidewall tear and there was a lot happening. But yesterday I got like a 2-inch wood screw straight in my tire and just like bink bink Dynaplug, and then like I didn't even have to put air in my tire.
Nice.
So like Orange Seal and Dynaplug, like really my heroes right now for being able to get back home. But
also just good snacks. So if you're on the side of the road and sad, you have the good snacks and it's still going to be a good bike ride.
This is not my hack, but this happened to my partner, that he was on tour and the bolt, I think, holding his derailleur in fell out. So he used a stick with a twig to hold that derailleur in, and it worked for the rest of the tour.
Yeah, cool.
That's
I
amazing.
think the night before we took off en Ruta, I don't even know. Sarah, listen into this and correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought so there was like some real wet weather coming. We were all nervous and excited about the event ahead of us the next morning. It was a daybreak start and we had 120 miles ahead of us, and there was like real weather in the forecast. And so there was a lot of concern about mud on the road, which was valid. It ended up stopping many folks from getting through on the route. But Sarah, I think what I heard you say was, don't even trip about the mud. Just take some floss with you. And I was like, what even is that in reference to? What is the floss thing about? And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to take floss. And so I grabbed the floss and I put it in my stem bag. And then when the mud happened, I used the floss to scrape all of the mud off of the tires. And it happened so fast. And it was like when in a ceramic studio, you cut the clay with a piece of wire. And it was amazing. And I totally got through all that mud. So if that's what you meant, Sarah, it worked. That's my new favorite hack is bringing floss. Mm-hmm. Cool. Excellent. Let's see. Anything else in the chat room? I don't want to take up too much of everybody's time. How y'all feeling about our first team first? That means hopefully I can lure you all back. Maybe a post-event report after your double hitter in August. How about that?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
That would
yes.
be really amazing. I really want to hear how it feels to get back into these events, especially after this hiatus, and what the experience of riding as a crew and being together. Hopefully with Georgia on crew, if not, then fully in spirit, I'm sure. But sweet. Anything y'all want to end with? Anything that I've like really missed?
One thing I just want to say is anybody out there in the audience, if you're going to these events as well, come up to us, ride with us, do it with us, because we, as much as you feel alone, so do we, you know? So let's just get a bigger community of us, and yeah.
I also want to remind everyone that we have not only the team, but the Gravel Squad as well. So definitely follow our Instagram page to get updates on how to join, and any projects that we plan will be on there.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you everybody for chiming in. Thank you to the gravel racers. I'm so inspired and so impressed by you all. And it's so it's such an honor that I've gotten to ride with you personally. And I cannot wait to see you out on bikes again. Hopefully I'll try riding with you at least for a time. And I won't mind if you drop me. Also, to our audience out there, I see a couple of you that I really want to give shout outs to. I'm going to try not to play favorites here, but Jim, I'm sending you the biggest kiss ever. It's so good to see you. Jim is a friend of ours tuning in from Mexico. Yeah, so rad to see you. They were part of the Swift team for a time, and I can't wait to see you again and ride with you again, Jim. And everybody else, Devin, Emily, Courtney, Jonathan, thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, follow the links below, plug in with the WTF community. If you don't identify as FTW, pass these resources along to the people in your life who do, because we're here building a community and a movement, and it's rad and inspiring to see this growing. I do want to draw your attention to, because I have a little bit of an ask. In the upper corner of our screen here, you'll see that there is a beautiful logo that says Cycling Industry Pledge. And the reason why I'm bringing it to your attention is that we here at Swift have taken the Cycling Industry Pledge. And the Cycling Industry Pledge is yet another extension of the incredible work that the WTF Bikexplorers are doing as a collective and organization to advocate for and push and encourage change around exactly these topics from the industry side. And it's really important for us at Swift to be pushing ourselves and raising our collective awareness as a company. And also, I feel like we've got a lot of opportunities, also you as customers, to go in and holler at your favorite bike shops and holler at your favorite companies and turn some attention towards encouraging folks to not only sign up as companies in support of the Cycling Industry Pledge, but really to do the work behind it. So that's my shout out. Thank you, Molly Sugar, for being the force who really put that together. It's a huge call to the community, and it's exciting work and daunting work, and we're going to do it together. So that all said, so good to see you all. I hope to see you soon. Yeah.
Thank you,
Till next
Martina.
time.
Thank you,
so
Swift.
much,
Thank you, Martina.
Thank you, Martina.
Bye,
Good to
everybody.
see
Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you all.